What's up, guys? Brian Chappell here. We're at the Grenada Lake Media Camp 2023. We got invited by Dannenmeuller with Crappie Now, and also I got another buddy on my right side, Kirby Hamm.
Hey guys, I feel like I've made it. I'm on Crappie Connection.
We got him on, man.
Hey, Mom.
Dan, what are we doing here in Grenada Lake?
I don't know. We're here fishing, I think, but really our mission here is to promote tourism for the local area so that everybody knows that there's family things to do as well as great fishing. We already know that. But also to, shall we say, bring media and fishermen together to produce content that's how-tos and educate you as an angler out there on the ways to catch crappie and catfish.
You know, it's been anytime you get to come to Grenada Lake, it's been such a fun thing. And today I got to fish with Kirby, or both, I guess you would say. We fished together.
Yeah,
we have before. And you know, I got both of these guys here, or both of them are on the Garmin Pro Staff. And I wanted to think of a subject line that I can utilize both of these gentlemen with. And it comes to my mind is some of the basic functionalities of Garmin units, and what are people really missing whenever they buy units that they could really take advantage and catch more fish no matter where they're at in a part of the country, from, you know, coming to your first time to Grenada Lake, to the Alabama River, to you name it. I mean, there's so many different Great Lakes that you want to go to, but you don't know anything about.
Right.
But how can people really utilize some of the units from, and I know Dan and I briefly talked about it before the show started, is contour shading. Dan, I think he was telling me some really interesting things about the new things Garmin's introducing as far as contour shading. So let's hear some of it.
Well, thanks, Brad, for having me here too.
Yeah.
For all of you out there, they just released about 2 months ago where we've wanted for a long time. They had bought Navionics. They were slowly migrating and merging the two databases for all the captures that were out there for the lakes. And finally now we have a unified release that takes Garmin maps and integrates it with Navionics. What two powerful actions and an amount of data. You got 44,000 lakes.
That's a lot of water.
I mean, it's incredible. And some of the new things that they did inside the maps, and they've got an incredible team at Garmin that's over this. I've met them, sat down with them. And what they've done is they've integrated 1 foot contours on a lot of the waters. They've integrated also shading so that it automatically comes up on there. If you want shading, it's going to do whatever contour shading you want. So let's say that Brad and I and Kirby find out that we want to fish 10-foot contours, and we found the fish on the 10-foot contours. You can shade out to 10. You don't have to do all the interim ones, and shade out to 10. And that now you know exactly where you're going to run, where you're going to fish in the whole lake. And so it also, I like to do it in places I don't know, is to go in and to use that shading to show me where humps are I don't want to hit, or obstacles or places that they've marked on the maps. So you can bring that shading in. And one of the things they asked me, and Kirby, they probably sent it to you as well recently, is that to promote and let you know as a consumer out there that this new shading is available. And to get that, they're not going to give that away free because it's just too much data and too much
time and effort.
So you have to buy it, and it's online. You can buy it online. And they'll send you a disc, an SD card that you can put into your unit. And then you use your Active Captain and you download all that data onto your unit, and it will be there. And keep your Active card in, your Active Captain card in the unit. If you take the Active card unit out, it will disconnect it. Mm-hmm. It will not let it run.
And I believe they divide the nation up east and west from the Mississippi.
Do.
So
they do.
If you have 2 units linked together, you can put 1 card in the second slot for the east and 1 side for the west. If you're a tournament person that's bebopping back and forth between the Mississippi River. So,
Yeah.
And another thing, you know, you want to go ahead and finish? I didn't mean to interrupt there.
No,
but
Kirby, it's okay.
It's okay?
Yeah, go for it. I've done the same thing. I've done east and west in there, and yes, it's divided. For you ocean fishermen, it also has all of the ocean contours in there and navigable waypoints and everything, and it enhances your waypoints and everything else. And Kirby, go ahead. You fill in too.
Well, I was actually learning a lot from you talking there. I don't want to interrupt, but, you know, talking about the shading, and one of the things that I find the most interesting about Garmin electronics is straight out of the box, a simpleton, a layman can kind of manipulate their way through to the points where they can find what they need. And from layman terms, if you don't know what we're talking about when we say shading, it's basically when you see the map and you see the contour lines, which usually represent a 1 foot drop in the line, you can actually take the shading and make it whatever color you want. So Kent Driscoll and I put together a great plan on Dale Hollow where we were only going to fish, you know, 12 to 17 foot, because we couldn't catch crappie deeper than 17 foot and keep them alive to win the tournament. We got in the money by finding that area, and what we did was that was the area we wanted to go to. Green means go, so from, you know, basically 13 to 17, we made that whole area of the lake green.
Yeah,
okay.
Eliminated a lot of water.
Yeah, and then you, for safety's sake, of course, you always want to have your, you know, 3 to 0 feet water. You want that red because that represents danger. Stop, you're going too fast, you're going to hit something. So that shading thing is not only a great resource to help you guys focus on water that you want to target, but it also can keep you safe. Wouldn't you agree, Dan?
I would absolutely agree with you. I do the same thing I did on the Wichita River last week, and I did the shading, and believe it or not, they actually had some pretty accurate maps for the Wichita River. It actually showed me the holes. It actually showed me where some of the danger areas are. And oh, by the way, Navionics and Garmin both have put in there some video captures of certain areas that are of interest, and those are pretty, don't pass them by. They come up as little cameras on there or little icons on there, and you want to click on those. So when you have the active captain and you have the shading on and everything else. Another function I'm sure that you've used as well, and if you haven't, I would use it. I use Quickdraw maps religiously, especially if there's a drawdown on the water or if it's a river like I was using. An area of interest, I don't do it everywhere, but let's say that I'm going to fish an arm. I was fishing Lake Weiss here and placed 4th in that tournament here about a month ago. And we found a river channel that wasn't really marked on anything else. And we did that through the contours and the shading. And it shows exactly. And it was a road map to the fish coming out of the main river, coming into the spawning grounds. And we were able to find where there were 2+ pound fish that were navigating through there. And so we spider rigged them and were just waylaying the big fish. I mean, in pre-fish, I quit fishing the whole area on Tuesday because it was that good. And I went back and checked on like Thursday, and that shading and doing those, looking where the deeper waters are, you'll find these underwater creeks and all that by using this. So yeah, very simplistic. You don't have to do anything special, like Kirby was saying. You don't have to do anything special on it. And he did a great job of telling what shading is. Shading is nothing more than coloring the map.
Yeah, it's like just taking a highlighter and saying, I want this one to be red, just to differentiate the depths.
Yeah, and like I said, coming into new bodies of water, I mean, you can really break them down so much quicker once you start developing patterns and different things like we've talked about in the past. But it's like on Grenada the last 2 days, you know, when I've been here, I've really started to paying attention in the very beginning on really what depth I saw fish really hanging out in. And then in turn, well, I haven't seen any fish deep, so I knew I didn't want to go really into the river channel.
Okay.
And just like right now, we got some lights blinking, but we're going to carry on. But, you know, it eliminated some areas that I didn't need to really focus on anymore. And it helped me stay in productive waters throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the name of the game, time on the water. Well, your time is ticking once you hit the boat ramp and your boat gets on the lake. So, these depth shadings is so key. And
here's something really, really neat. You can take that, if you want to do your pre-planning, like we used to do with maps. I used to take the maps and I had color pencils. And I would go color all those maps up with all those contours. So I did the same thing. This is years ago.
Yeah.
And now you don't have to do that. So here's one real tip for you. Go and take that, bring up that map on your unit, download it onto the card, take it to your computer, and bring it up, and then colorize it and do your research before you get to your water you're going to fish.
Yeah. And another cool feature about that is, here's a funny story. You can also pull those maps up and study them right on your Garmin unit. You may not even have to utilize your computer because you can actually put waypoints on where you think you're going to fish. And then you can actually hit the navigate to button on Garmin, and you can actually navigate to that point and stay within a safe traveling depth. You know what I mean? Because I'd never fished Dale Hollow. Here's kind of a funny story. And so during the pre-fishing days, I've fished the lake with Corey Thomas several times, but Kent and I were not able to actually pre-fish together. So I had to basically explore a lake that I'd never been on by myself. And if you've ever fished Dale Hollow coming from Kansas City, it can be a little intimidating with, over 23 marinas and I don't know how many miles it stretches into 2 states. So I would look where I wanted to fish in the depth that I wanted to fish in that shading, and then I would hit a waypoint on that particular point, and I just look at the map and I would see all the green, and I would go, anytime I'd see the green on a point, I knew that there was some good Dale Hollow crappie fisherman that would have probably put a mossback habitat or a brush pile of some sorts. So I would just mark that. But then I got all my points, and I was used to going where they were at. But on launch day, the second day, Kent's daughter is an athlete, and she had a college tour, so he couldn't fish the final day. So the final day, I head off from the launch, and somehow I drew like 12th place. So there's a lot of people behind me, and I head out, and I'm making these wide turns to stay in my safe zone, and I've got no, what are you doing? And so it was a little dangerous on my part, but because these guys really knew the lake, they'd fished it several times.
Another thing along these same lines that I did years ago, and I don't know if people are really utilizing now, is tracks. Coloring my day's tracks, and it lets me know, like, say on Mondays, if I have all my tracks to color red, well, I know last Monday exactly where I was on any body of water that I'm on. Tuesdays might be blue, and such. Even on pre-fishing, I used to really phenomenally stay in touch with coloring my tracks per day. That way I didn't go back to the same, and I knew exactly what day I was there every time. But hitting these new bodies of water, I can say, all right, we're going to be here for 3 days. I know what my track was the first day I got here.
Yeah.
So changing your tracks, even if you kind of put it in your mind that I know only Mondays is going to be my black track, especially if you fish different days of the week, you can always refer back to the track and say, well, that was 2 weeks ago. I know I fished the upper arm of the lake, and this is the same track that I'm going to fish again today because of productive or unproductive. So tracks can be really utilized more than people do.
Right.
And that's kind of the subject line. Where are some of these units that we're not really utilizing that they can really help you become better anglers?
Great tip, kind of going along with what you're saying, is waypoints.
Yes.
When you set a waypoint, don't be afraid to spend a little bit of time with your Garmin unit and customize it to help you track when you do have good days. Inside the waypoint, when you mark it, it gives you an option of editing it. So you can edit it. I got to do my little disco move here.
There you go.
But you can edit it to whatever symbol, if something's danger, if you hit a stump one time, if I ever hit a stump, I always stop, go back, and put a crossbones.
Me too.
Crossbones. There you go. Because you don't want to do that again. But another thing you can do is inside those waypoints, put the date down. Put what you were using in the notes.
I've never done that.
Yeah, it's a great way to, because, I mean, we fish a lot.
Yeah.
I know you do, Brad. There's no way that we can keep track of all this stuff. I know your co-host, Todd Huckabee, he's got like a journal diary type thing, but you can utilize all that information, and like you said, and store it and help you return to those productive areas at productive times by putting the dates, the times, the baits in the notes of your waypoints.
And there's another thing that you can do too, and this was recommended by Garmin when I went through their training classes, is take this take this area and this, let's say you're Dale Hollow.
Yeah.
And save it off to Dale Hollow on an SD card and keep that SD card and label it that lake with this date.
Ooh, okay.
Because if with as much fishing, I do a lot, but you guys really do a lot.
Right.
And you're going to exceed at some point the memory capacity inside of that unit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So especially with all the waypoints and with all the tracks.
That's true.
And I've had them where they look
Tracks
like spiders.
would be awesome too.
And I mean, go back and save it and label it, and then you can put that card in the next time you go. Now it'll be on your unit the next time you go.
Right.
But just make sure, because there, at some point it's going to go in and say you've exceeded
Maxed
the number
out.
of tracks. And,
Yeah, I've done it before.
and all of a sudden, the next day, you're going to be
You're
lost.
erased.
They're going to be
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
So,
Another thing, talking about the waypoints is, and I wish I would have thought a little bit better in the beginning as far as, setting different symbols on my units to mean different things. But I do it even for a waypoint that might be shallow water, it's going to be a green color.
Okay.
A certain depth
Yeah.
would be a different, even symbol wise. I know
Right.
a big brush pile is going to be, if it's shallow, a green brush pile.
Right.
A mid lake or mid depth brush pile symbol will be blue, and just kind of develop your own thought process. Even if you need to go back and adjust them, you can always go back and edit waypoints too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And I don't think, I mean, that's something so easy to do. You can say, you know what, that waypoint is, it's not really a brush pile. The more I looked at it with my live scope or whatever, it's actually a stump. So I need to change it and actually determine what it is. And what helps me as a guide every day is that once I kind of find a pattern going, if I can say, all right, I'm finding them on, let's say, brush piles that's in 15 foot of water, I can automatically look at my units and say, all right, I got 6 different brush piles that I can fish because it's blowing out of the southwest. That's in that depth of water that it should be fished in those same spots. And it helps me from, on the whole time management things, keep me on productive water with clients. And also if you're fishing tournaments, that can be such a time saver, is staying on productive waters. And that's the name of the game for me, is staying on productive waters.
Exactly. And you can actually go back, if you do the due diligence of marking all of your particular spots at a particular depth or a particular type of style that these fish are on.
Yeah.
You can go back through data management and pull up only those waypoints.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can mark the numbers, and that eliminates all your other ones. So you take the notes of where they are, make certain they're on that lake, and then you gotta, because some of these lakes are huge on your charts, so you can't cover them all, but there might be one up in the corner that's hiding that you missed, and that's a good way to see if that's in that category that you created.
yeah, I had like on Lake Martin near me, big lake, another one of those great big reservoirs, and I have close to 300 and something waypoints of brush piles on that. Now, some of them are aging, so they're decreasing in value, but 300 and something, I mean, you've got to have a way to sort. So back in the day when we first started building on the Garmin stuff, one of the things, they gave us the rights to come in and recommend the priority of things that we wanted in there. What you're benefiting from are some of those inputs we made. The one on notes, I wanted to have it where it was like a word processor where you could type in, instead of having to go the way it is in the keyboard right now, because you have to hunt and peck in there. I wanted to have it like an external keyboard that I could have that was wireless, that would hook into it, and I could just go in there and type it and put in all the narrative in there like we do on computers and everything else. I don't have the thumbs that do all this stuff, but you can't do that on the Garmin either. But I wanted this external wireless keyboard, and they still haven't done it, but I'd love to have that.
That would be really cool.
Where you could just put their narrative in and then save it.
Yeah.
And so you could put more into it instead of having to hunt and peck and do all those letters.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think these simple keys that we've talked about right now, if people utilize them, will put more fish in the boat.
Big benefit.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the key word that I think I like about Garmin. It's simple. I mean, when you, right out of the box, you know, I know everybody has their settings on live scope and all this stuff, but right out of the box, it's pretty darn good. You know, and it's pretty easily accessible in the setup with the home screen. You have charts, you have different sonars, you have, you know, depending on what unit you have so many more options. You have weather, you have radar, you have media connections. A lot of people don't know that Garmin have, or they used to produce action cameras, and you can actually control your action cameras from the screen. Garmin has a fusion stereo system that you can actually turn the volume up, turn the channel on, all on your screen. They have a line of watches called the Quadics, which you can actually have on your wrist, and you can mark a spot at any time that you catch a fish, even if you're on Brad Chappell's boat today, and it will upload it to your Garmin unit. So,
really?
Yeah, and it's a really cool, easy connectability. You can get lost in it. I mean, you could go crazy, you know, hipster geek on this stuff and lose yourself. I mean, that's how crazy these little computers are on our boats now.
And that's really what they are.
I mean, you can't master everything. Hunter at dinner tonight was showing me how to use my own damn phone. I'm like, thank you, Hunter. That's really Hunter, the producer, give him a round of applause. Yeah, but simply right out of the box, Garmin has, you know, everything at your fingertips. And, you know, the first thing you want to look at is charts. If you're exploring a lake, find out where you want to go. The next thing you want to look at is, you know, I always create my own combos so that at any time on the screens I have 1, 2, or 3 things. And I always have, of course, traditional sonar, so I know that I'm in a safe depth no matter where I'm traveling. You too?
Yeah.
The other thing I have is side imaging. I still believe that side imaging is the most productive thing on the Garmin fish finders for creating areas that you want to fish. Now, I know we all love live scope, but you can cover so much more water side imaging, marking the brush piles on the side, then go looking at them than live scope than you ever could trolling around looking left and right with your side scope. Would you not agree?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the most simplest things like traditional and chirp and the different views that's on there for clear view and all that, I still go back to all of those. There's one tip I want to tell your audience, and that is Garmin is now coming out with updates about every 3 months. And they are active about what they put into those. There's some really cool stuff. So if you get your unit brand new from the store, don't assume that it has the latest updates on it.
Yeah.
Because it might have been sitting in a warehouse for 6 months, and it may not have the latest edition of their software. Make sure that you do your updates to your software on a regular basis every 3 months, and go up on the website for Garmin. They have it underneath the marine division where you can click down there. That is so important, because if you don't, you're not going to keep up on the latest things that are really wow, because they are constantly enhancing those units.
Oh yeah, and make certain when you're purchasing a Garmin unit that if you find some crazy cool deal, make certain that deal of a steal is what you want to utilize for the particular thing that you want to do, because Garmin is, like you said, updating stuff so much, and every year they come out with a new model number which has different features. Now, although a lot of those features you can upload onto any particular unit that is of the same caliber,
Right.
but you want to make certain that you utilize and keep your systems updated. You know what I mean? With the latest update.
Yeah, and the caliber that you speak of, so that you know out there, what he's speaking to is Echo Map line versus having the GPS line.
Or the 8600 line or the 8000 line.
Yes.
And remember that those don't talk to one another.
Right, they will not. If
You have to stay on the same platform. So if you're buying one up front, make certain it matches in the back.
That's right, because you put in the data cable.
Yeah.
The first thing it's going to say is invalid unit
Yeah.
connected. I've had that happen.
From experience.
It took me like 4 months I was trying to link two different ones together, and I was having so much frustration until I called the Garmin. I finally broke down and thought I'd ask the pros at Garmin, so I called the Garmin helpline, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, those don't talk together. You're an idiot." And I'm like,
Here's something really cool about Garmin also, guys, and for you all out there, that they don't have one help center. They have like 6, 8 of them.
"Oh yeah."
And they're huge, and they're all staffed with people that want to help you. So the one thing I've seen over other companies is that if you need help, there are really fishermen that are in that network helping on there, and they will help you. If you have a trolling motor issue, it's Garmin. If you have a unit issue, even if it's a small unit, tiny unit,
Yeah.
and even if you just don't know how to use it, and you don't have anybody to go to, you don't know anyone, or you might be embarrassed to do so, call them up on that helpline and say, "I don't know how to use this, this, and this.
I don't know how to shade, or I don't even like we talked about today is, there's so many resources that I think we all as fishermen have, and like Dan just said, is you get embarrassed to ask how to do things, and which one would work best for me is call these guys up and say, "Hey, look, this is kind of my style of fishing. This is kind of my thought process on how to use a unit. What unit would best fit me?" And those guys, anytime I've ever called Garmin, and I'm not sponsored by Garmin, but they've always immediately resolved any kind of issue that I had. So hats off to you guys for, being a part of that company and doing things. And guys, just keep taking advantage of these functions that we won't go into so many details about Garmin, but the trails, the waypoints, and this depth shading, those 3 things, if you can learn to do better on your units, if you're not utilizing, I will bet you, without a shadow of a doubt, you will put more crappie in your boat day in, day out, and you can thank us later.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another good thing is if you can't get an answer from somebody at Garmin, which is highly unlikely.
What's your number, Kirby?
You call me 913-463. No, what I was going to say is there are so many resources online, including the Crappie Connection or YouTube. There's a lot of great fishermen out there that share the information. Brian Ondraka, incredible Garmin breakdowns of things. I've got a lot of stuff on my Crappie Kirby and on the Fish Eat Live channel. I know you've broken down settings before, and don't be afraid to just go to that YouTube and say, "How do I do this with Garmin?" and put your model in, and it's tons of videos.
Yeah, and Garmin actually has a repository of those too.
Oh yeah, the Garmin straight from the company.
If you go up there and you Google a subject or something you want to know, they have pulled together some stuff. I mean, I've gone up there when I researched things, when we were rigging things on the boats and trying to figure out how to do it, especially in the beginning when it was all new. And we didn't know. And so, and now they've gotten smarter and smarter and better at putting the package together. And by the way, on your unit, there is a help function that you can go to that gives you lots of tips on anything. Search it right on your unit. And it has it right on there. If they don't do a handbook anymore or a user book, it's all in your unit. So you can go to your unit. If you can't get the answer there, then go to the next step.
Another good resource is Garmin has an incredible regional account execs that cover different regions of supplying the different marinas and bait stores that actually sell Garmin products. So you can actually go into your local bait store and say, hey, can I have the number of the regional, and these guys, they want to help. They want you guys to be successful with their products, and I know a lot of people are, but they also want to teach and educate you. And a lot of times, if you go to your local area where you purchase your things, say, hey, why don't you have one of the account execs do a seminar and come down? I know that they sent Garmin executives Dallas Spurgeon to Grizzly Jig this year, and he was supposed to do 3 seminars. He ended up doing, I think, 6 because they were just packed with people and all their questions about Garmin. But, it's like what we were talking about on the lake today when we were fishing. We were helping Hunter, learn live scope, and he did a phenomenal job. But nothing's going to teach you more than just diving in and spending some time getting to know your Garmin, because there's nothing more frustrating than going out on a lake in a panic to catch fish, and you get onto some screen that you can't get off of, or you can't figure out what you're trying to do. But just a little bit of preparation will actually help you have a lot more enjoyable time on the water. If you just take a time, maybe one afternoon, go out on the boat and don't even take a pole, and learn all of the crazy cool features that Garmin have.
Well, guys, I appreciate y'all coming on tonight. And Dan, definitely thanks for the invite to the Grenada Crappie Media Camp.
Yes.
You're so welcome.
We've had a blast here. Caught some great fish.
Oh, my gosh. I've had a lot of fun. I mean, incredible sponsors. Bob Garland, B&M, Crappie Magnets.
Power Pole, Garmin.
I looked up this Double D's Outdoors, and boy, did I get an eyeful. What is that all about?
That's my website. It's a brand new website.
Oh, I don't think this was your website. It was something very...
Oh, no.
Double D's Outdoor. I'm joking.
I was going to say,
dirty old man.
There's going to be something out there that's going to be
but no, of course, Dannenmeuler's website and power poles. And boy, I tell you, the city of Grenada has just been amazingly welcoming to this camp.
Oh, my gosh. They were. And you know what? The Grenada of yesteryear is not the Grenada of next year. And Grenada is growing. They kind of wired me in on what's going to happen on Grenada. This truly is going to be a destination in the future with all kinds of neat stuff that they wired me into. It's going to happen here.
Did you even mention like a theme park or something going on here?
There's some things I can't talk about that they kind of wired me into. Sorry. Let me tell you all out there, this is going to become a place, if it isn't already, but a place where you can not only come here and catch your biggest crappie of your life.
Yeah, they're here.
It's also going to be the place where you can bring your family and have other things that you'll want to do. They've got brand new ballparks and everything that's going to make this city much better. And they've got a lot of industry that's moving in here as well. And you got the new back 340, and you've got all kind of PTG Outdoors, which Ron Upchurch is one of the greatest people, has put together, he and his wife Patsy. And you name it, and now they're selling boats here. They kind of wired me in on tourism here as far as what they're now tracking the big ticket items that are bought when people come here with tournaments. That was eye-opening. That's not been tracked anywhere else I've looked at.
Huh.
Yeah, the number of boats, the number of Garmin units sold through here, the number of everyone comes in here and wants to use it, try it, and the guides are wonderful here. I mean, there's some really good guides here. And I think you guide some here too.
I'd love to guide here more, but
there's some competition here.
Oh yeah, there's wonderful guides at this lake and all around everywhere, of course, too. But Grenada's just
it's beautiful.
It is
it's so beautiful.
If it's on your bucket list, you won't regret coming. That's for sure. I've had a great week and looking forward to getting out there tomorrow and see if I can catch another big giant Grenada Lake crappie.
Well, I appreciate you
like
guys
he did today.
Here.
He caught a bunch of them today. So.
But make sure you subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. And look up these two guys. These guys got a lot of good things for the crappie fishing world. And you know what? We're all on this thing together. We're wanting to grow the sport. as a unity, as a brotherhood, and that's kind of how I look at crappie fishing nowadays, is a crappie fishing brotherhood.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
And,
I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about it for a while as far as the crappie fishing brotherhood, and that's really what it means to me nowadays. Is it's no more, you know, this guy runs a Ranger boat, that guy runs a Bass Cat. You know, we're all crappie fishing brotherhood. So make sure you hit subscribe, and thank you guys.
Hey, man, thank you. It's an honor.
Appreciate it, Brad. Thank you so much. And to Hunter.
Yep, the Hunter, give thanks to him as well. He's behind the scenes every day and got to even do some fishing today, so it was a little bit different for him. But next time, you got Brad Chappell here,
Crappie Kirby?
Crappie Kirby,
Crappie Dan.
Crappie Dan.
Yeah.
Holler.
Oh.
Bye.
About a mile from Big Muddy River, a place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I can feel